program. I'm Anwar Khalil, your host. My guest today is an author and human rights activist, and the first female interview of mine in a year that I stayed with this another program, and she's Sena Jimjimo, basically the grandfather name, the way they name themselves in the States. Anaruf?
Anna.
Oh, typical answering in Oromo. Sena, let's talk about your birthplace.
All right, my birthplace, my favorite place, the place that I dream a lot. I was born and raised in Adaba. I left in around 8th grade, and I lived in the state for about 19 years, going on 19.
Adaba, the former Bali zone town?
Yes.
And the current West RC zone.
Correct.
And
we didn't approve that.
Yeah, but
the local does not approve it.
I mean, we talk to many individuals from that area that they say we are in Bali. Whatever it is, we are in Oromia.
Correct.
The very thing that brings that together. And tell me about your family background. I mean,
yes.
I'm from the agrarian family, and what about yours?
It's very, very similar. My dad is actually kind of educated, but my mom never went to school. I came from a very conservative family, very large kids, don't ask me how many. And education, my dad is actually a very moderate person. There's I want to say his brothers, my uncles, were very conservative compared to him. He did care about women issue, but his view of women empowerment, things like that, is totally different than the one I have right now. He is no longer here, so I hope he sees me and kind of think like proud or something. But so I came from, he did have a business too, so business, agrarian, and politician. He was an OLF leader in the area. That's how I came in close in the OLF and the Oromo struggle. And growing up, OLF was around our house and it's monitored by OLF armies at the time when I was young. And so I left about 20 years ago. And the Oromo struggle is something that was very, very personal to me. And I used to cry about it at the age of probably like 8 or 9.
And you studied your elementary school here?
I went to school until 8th grade, yes.
Already in Adapa.
Yeah.
And then the States.
Yes.
And you studied your first degree. No, tell me
Yes.
about your high school there, and so that we can also talk about your university.
Yep. So I went there high school. I went to a very special high school because of language difficulty. As you can imagine, there was no English. My English was very limited back then.
Oromo is your first language?
Yes, my first language. Yes, correct. So I went to a very special school and struggled with the language. And then eventually I graduated, went on to get my bachelor degree in political science.
From the University of Illinois.
University of Illinois, yep. So the way I end up actually in politics is political science is, as you can know or imagine, all African parents, you have to either be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. That's only education.
And pilot as well.
And pilot. If you're not there, you're not educated. So I'll tell you a story about that. So my mom, everybody's like, you have to be a doctor. Like,
sure.
You have to be a doctor. We have no doctor. You have to be a doctor. So I went on to study science courses. I took a lot of science. I took a lot of calculus, biology, chemistry. My last year of pre-pharmacy, I went to this class who were taught by a professor from Eritrea, and it was political science, international relations. It's IR class, and I fell in love with it. So I took additional 2 years to complete my prerequisite for political science. I went on to get my political science degree, and I worked with it for a little bit. I was, you probably heard about me talking about it. I worked in Obama campaign before he became a president. I worked at his Senate office. And
that was what I was to ask you, and you continue that.
I get to that. So I worked in politics a lot, but then one thing is in the U.S., I feel like a lot of people study political science. It's a very popular, because of a lot of international people. Just like me, I went into politics to actually address the Oromo question. I run into a lot of people who never heard of Oromo. Actually, in fact, I've never met anyone that say that I know Oromo. So I wanted to study politics so that I can bring up Oromo question and Oromo interest, or just Oromo to the international front. I wanted to address, I want the world to know that when I say I'm Oromo, that they know exactly what I'm talking about. That was the reasoning for me to go to political science. So after graduation, it was hard to find a job. I couldn't find a job, so to go on and.
What about your master's degree?
So that's how I end up. That's how I end up studying public administration and public health to do my master's.
Are you telling me that political science is, a very wonderful field of study in the States, but not job?
Yes, just because there's so many people, the job market for political science is very competitive.
And now, are you working with the field that you studied in your master's degree then?
Yes, I am working in the field that I work for the health department, and my master's degree is one of my master's degrees in public health. But I did a lot of my time in politics. As you can mention, I did work a little bit at the State Department. I did at Obama. I told you when he was running for president. Before he was running for president, I was at his Senate office, and I did a few other places. So I did have a lot of involvement in the U.S. politics. U.S. politics is my expertise.
Democrat, Republican. Actually, many political parties out there.
I'm independent.
Including the Green Tea, you are independent.
Yep, I'm independent, yeah.
Cool. And you're also president for an association, I heard that.
Yep.
And what is that?
So my first organization actually, I was president, is Oromo Student Association back in 2004 after I graduated high school. I started Oromo Student Organization with 2 Oromo people, and then additional, in the school to create an organization, you have to have 3 people. So we recruited a South Sudanese guy, a great friend of mine. We ended up, still friend of mine. We started Oromo Student Association and to kind of just educate the students.
You made the Sudanese an Oromo?
An Oromo, yep.
All right.
So we started in 2004, and that is my first organization that I created. I went on to join other African student organizations, and as well as I was SGA, which is Student Government Association. I was senator, and when I was doing my master's. As a senator, you work for all grad students and kind of addressing their concern and their need. In terms of my current position in my organization as a coalition for human rights, coalition for Oromo Advocate for Human Rights and Democracy, that is born is about 2 years old, and it is actually after the second Oromo protest is when we kind of felt like it was necessary to have Oromo advocacy group.
Of 2015.
Correct. So it was born in 2016.
And now 3 years of age.
Yep, now it's 2 years of age. I accomplished a lot.
Does this association continue surviving if the Oromo demands are met?
So, I mean, as you can see in our title, it says Coalition of Oromo Advocates for Human Rights and Democracy. Human rights and democracy is something that will go on for a very long time. So we expect, we think, we assume it will go on because not only the human rights of Oromo people, I am personally very passionate about women. You probably heard that half of things that I do and I say and I dream is about women. I talk about women, Oromo women particularly. I also talk about women in general around the world. The issue of women is something that is... you
mean as long as the problem of violating human rights continues, your association continues working against that problem? Yep,
as long as the world might be like this for quite some time, so yes.
But why women?
Women are one of the most, women and children are one of the most abused, misunderstood, and disfranchised segment of the society. And one of the reasons I feel like women are disfranchised in the politics, in economy.
We'll be back to that. We'll be back to that. But
right.
Where have you brought this confidence from? I mean, what brought you to this very track that you're confident enough to challenge individuals on what you think wrong?
I feel like my confidence came when I was about 3 years old. I used to hear about abuses in Adaba. And I've never seen my dad beat up my mom, but I've heard stories about he beat her up, and it was just so common. And I used to get mad about it. I'm like, how could somebody just beat her up? And this is 3 years old, and I had a conversation with my dad. I'm like, I heard you beat my mom. If I was alive, if I was old, I would have killed you.
Yeah, good kill. Yeah. Right.
So I, at that age, I was determined to change the fate of women. I wanted to make sure no one would get abused, especially when, because if you look in my culture, Oromo culture, a husband beats a wife, a brother beats his sister, a dad beats his wife, husband beats wife, dad, and son. It's like everybody beats up women, and it's kind of accepted. In fact, in some part, it is kind of seen as a positive, like, oh yeah, he's a man. And so that thing angered me, and I wanted to change that. That I was 3 years old, and my confidence, I think my confidence kind of grew out of the demand that I was committed to change my fate, and I wanted to make sure my child, the daughter I'm gonna have, she's gonna grow in a world where she have a confidence. Because I feel like in African society, in a Roman society, we suck out the confidence from women. We taught her to look down, to never talk to a man straight. That was how I grew up.
But the Oromo men never go to battlefield without the blessing of women. What do you think?
You see, that is in theory, there's that a lot of things that say, like in Gada system, the power of women, the power of Sinke, and I talk a lot about that. Practically, you don't see that. You don't. Men abuse women so much. The society is complicit with it, and nobody even say that. In fact, even women are complicit with it. I've seen in the state, I know incidents of rape, incidents of abuse by our brothers and sisters, our brothers in the society, in the community are not saying anything because it is embedded in our culture. There's inferiority of women. Yes, we like to say women are, without a blessing of women, men cannot do that. But let's be practical. When is the last time men wait for a blessing of women? When is the last? In what battleground? In what incidents have you seen? Yes. In theory, you hear about it because about Gada is very complex. It's a big topic that requires a lot of study to kind of really say that why women could not be a Bagada or Haragada. You know what I'm saying? That requires a debate of like, there is a reason why people give like why women were excluded to becoming the leader in a Bagada and things like that. But other than that, we like to say without the blessing of this and that. But in practice, I've never seen where women...
Don't you think that we can correct that? Because the Gada system starts emerging after some 600 years or so to be strengthened, and even recently inscribed by UNESCO due to those qualities. Like you said, the rights of women were stanched by, patriarchal society.
That is exactly where the problem
has been formed.
But that's exactly the problem.
But I'm telling you, the issue of some 600. In practice today, there are some societies, Oromo clans, in Borana and Guji, you do have that right. I don't know what the comment would be. What do you think then?
But here's the thing. I feel like, okay, if during the Gada system we did have had a Gada, then I can say that, okay, you know what? Let's bring Gada as it is and implement it and let's modernize it.
That's what I mean.
But even Gada system, women are excluded. But there is this conversation or talk that say like, just like a Bagada, there is a Sinke. Let's be practical. Yes, Gada system was, I guess, have not been used like for 100 years maybe or so. But even during the Gada system, and I feel like since monotheistic religion, since the religion of one God came, that women have been disfranchised purposely. And not only disfranchised, women have accepted that role as of inferiority, that the power don't belong to them, they are incapable of leading. And that's what the conversation, a lot of things that I hear, and a lot of things that I actually read.
About the Sinke, it needs research, and we'll argue on that part. But let me go to your book. The book entitled In Between, the story of African Oromo women and the American experience. And I did this one. And my cameraman definitely shoots this and shows to the public. And may you explain this cover page? What does it represent? I see a girl in tears. And
you see the blood around it?
And blood is there, territory there. I see the map. I see the flag with 50 stars, the flag of the United States of America, and also the flag of a Bagada, black, red, and white. Why this cover?
Oromia Broadcasting Network